Been a long day. Found something at auction I couldn't say no to. So here it is. Cincinnati Bickford Super Service drill. Here's how I hauled it here. Now we got to get this thing picked up, upright, moved in the shop. We can have a better look. And here she sits. We're talking about a brute. This thing's huge. Got to get her cleaned up, get all that gunk off of there, see what we've got. It's gonna be a lot of work to clean that up. It's not very fun. It's the next day and it's raining, but here she is. Let's take a walk around here. It's nice. We have the speed selector as well as the down feed selector. I don't understand how this machine works entirely, not yet, but get to the bottom of it. I did start shining on a little bit there. And this rag is stuck here, and the owner said that it has a seal leaking, and I'm guessing that that rag was up there to eliminate splatter from hitting the operator in the face, maybe. I don't know. This is kind of a unique machine in that it has the round pedestal. A lot of them have a box type of pedestal on the bottom there. But we'll be cleaning this guy up and restoring it. That's a 5 horsepower 3-phase. You can wire it in either 220 or 480. As you can see, it's set currently at 480. It's nice too. Whoever wired this last time was nice enough to put some information about the current draw and the specification of it as it sits here. So this was in a GMC plant. I forget where the tag is, but yeah, it was apparently in a GMC production facility at some point. I still have to get after it and figure out anything I can, details around where this machine has been and when it was built. They have a weird serial number way of looking that up. I think it's probably worthwhile doing that. But fairly simple electric box here. And I think this up here lists the taps for how you can change it from 480 to 230. Probably have an electrician do that. Maybe I'll give it a shot, but it's nice too because we're 208 service here, so having another transformer is not the way I want to do things. But here she is in all the grime and mess that we've got to clean up. And after we get to polishing on this for a day or two, I'll bring you back and let you see what it looks like cleaned up. All right, so spent the better part of the day cleaning this old girl up. Still need to do the motor. I sort of left that on the view that it's coming off, and maybe I'll clean it up too, but got the electric box sorted out. And I still have to get the pedestal base there. That's still pretty grimy. I did take a first pass at the base and cleaned a lot of chunks and scraped it out of there. Still obviously work to do, and cleaned up the tabletop here, turntable. Two things I've discovered. One, there was a repair up here on this guy right there. You can see how it was brazed together. So we're going to have to maybe work on that a little bit, grind that down. And similarly on this, you can see it was broken and was brazed back together. But so far so good. That's all I see. We know, of course, that there's a seal up here that we're going to have to replace, but she's cleaning up. Not as good as I'd like to see it, but it's coming along. So tomorrow I hope to have some time to get that base cleaned up and take a pass at cleaning up the very bottom of it. But there's still just loads of stuff to scrape off. So far, so good. So I thought it might make some sense to take a peek at the top of this thing. And here's what I found. It would seem to me, on the basis of the threads you see, like for example here, that there was a tube coming out of there that the spindle would go up into, and that way dust and debris wouldn't get in the machine. Here, clearly, dust and debris has made its way into the machine, into the bearings. This is not ideal. So I'm thinking these bearings are probably trashed a little bit. That looks like an oiling port. Perhaps it splashes oil up on the bearings when it's running. But there's a lot of gunk in here. We'll just have to take a look, I guess. Okay. So we pulled the motor off. It was not too difficult to do. Just had to make an eye bolt there to move it. I didn't have a 7/16, but we pulled the bell off the back, and this is why we pulled the bell off the back. There's a 1/2 inch or more of crud caked everywhere, particularly on the underside of the bell. And if we listen carefully at the bearings here, they are completely toast. They should be smooth. They shouldn't have a grinding sound. So this definitely needs pulled apart, cleaned, and new bearings, and we'll do that as part of the restoration. Here we are back at the bench. Disassembly is complete. Didn't find anything surprising. I think pretty much everything was in keeping with my expectations. The bearings are shot, but they're still intact. They don't seem to have a lot of run out, but clearly we have a mess in here in the windings, and I'm guessing that's from back when this used to be a unit that could be greased. You'll see down here they replaced the grease zerks with caps, and in the effort to, well, and they put in sealed bearings. You can see the bearings are now sealed. They would have ordinarily been open, and the grease would be injected in around the bearing here, and that's sealed. So someone has been in this and replaced the original bearings with sealed bearings. So the question now is what to do about this mess. And I think pressure sprayer is probably the way that we're going. We've got plenty of time with this restoration, so we can basically let it air dry over the course of weeks and be certain that as long as we take some care with how we clean that, I think we'll be in good shape. But you can see it's a sealed unit, and it vents through the side there. The fan blows cool air through the side to cool the motor, and it's not exposed. So the question, of course, obviously, is how did it get so dirty? And I think that's from the grease from the original setup before it was replaced. But a bit of work to get it apart, but here it is. And next step is order some bearings and start cleaning up these parts. We're over here at the lathe. I took out the rotor. I brought it over here. Getting the drive flange off the end here was very difficult, at least in part due to the deformation that was caused by the grub screw that helps to hold it on. It's a press fit, so I don't know why you need that, but nonetheless, I cleaned it up on the lathe here, shined up the entire shaft, and ground that mark, that deformation, flat. So I'm hopeful that when we go to press this on, we'll have a little bit easier time doing it. Need to clean this end as well, swap it around and clean it up. But otherwise, shaft looks good. We're back on the Cincinnati Bickford drill press. I've changed the bearings in the 5 horsepower motor and cleaned it up a bit, sandblasted most of it, well, the bells anyway, and have some body work done on here. I thought, well, since I got it primer, I might as well skim coat a little bit of filler on there and sand it down just to make it a little bit nicer. Still have some work to do. Probably going to put 2 or 3 more coats of the 2K high build on it, and then paint this guy. And I still have to work on, let's take a walk over here. Still have to prime the fan that goes on the back of it here. But sandblasted down to bare white metal and good to go. So a bit more work on this, and I think we'll have step one complete. Well, it's about 10:30 at night. Been working all day to finish this thing, and had a customer, well, one of our small kitchens had to get put together and sent out today. We got that done, but also had to load the truck for a trip this weekend to Land Between the Lakes. Pretty excited about that. But here she is, and smooth as butter. Oh man, it feels good. That extra body work makes a difference. Sure does. We'll put the tags back on this thing, and it's encouraging, just to see the first step of this process of turning this beast into something pretty. I don't know. It doesn't have to be pretty, but so far so good. On to the next part. Rest off of there and figured out that those pins, well, look like bolts that are all over this thing are actually tapered pins, and they're used to align the castings. So you can see we've completely removed the top, and it was not too difficult. We just had to slide it off of these drive shafts, and over here we have it. Taken off the side, which is the gear set for the automatic feed. Everything, haven't really inspected that completely yet, but everything in the main gearbox here looks really good. There's a little bit of rounding in some of the teeth where people have shifted gears without letting the machine completely stop. But everything looks really good. I don't see any issues anywhere. And we know the one thing we need to repair is this seal in here is leaking. And it's not obvious to me how to remove this shaft. I did remove the shift handle as well as the, what do you call it, the shift fork that goes in here. So we have that out and took the bearing cap off here. This assembly does not want to slide. I don't know exactly how to pull that out. It's a mystery, but so far so good. This thing is heavy. I can tell you, it is a heavy piece of metal. But see about getting that shaft out next. As an update, I attempted to remove this component, whatever it might be called, and the chain that offsets the weight and makes it work so lovely. Honestly, it's effortless to move it up and down, and the quill is neutral. The chain, in order to get the chain loose, first off, it's permanently attached to the weight that's in the column here. It's permanently attached there, and there is a gear that it rolls up on in here that has a shaft that goes through. In order to get the pin that holds the chain loose, you have to pull the shaft out. It has to come out through this compartment, and you have to remove everything out of here, including all the gears that move the quill and the auto feed and so on. I opened it up to determine that was the order of operations, and honestly, it would have been easier to sandblast, clean, paint, and so on with this as a separate piece, but it simply isn't worth the risk of disassembly and potentially breaking something that I can't get parts for this machine. So I don't want to break anything. It's all in good shape. I did an inspection of everything in there. Looks great. There was one bolt that had come loose and was laying in the bottom of the sump here, and there was almost a half an inch of sludge in the bottom. But it looks like paraffin or perhaps just decomposed oil that just settled. Constituents in the oil settled over time. I didn't see any glitter, anything. And here's the weight you can see in the back, and it's quite large. However, I'm still of the mind that it would make sense to remove the column and this part and attend to the base separately. I think having it up off the ground would make it easier to clean, easier to, patch up and paint. I do want that cleaned well, and I want a good paint job on that. So the easier it is to work on, the better. And I suspect it's many hundreds of pounds. So that's where we are right now. I am quite pleased at the condition of everything in here. There is some wear, particularly on the gears in the depth stop, but not bad at all. Given it's a 77-year-old machine, this thing is in really quite good condition. It's perfectly serviceable. So anyway, we'll just start stripping the paint in situ, as they say. Well, got this beast put back together and got most of the paint off of it. Notice the color here is rather dark. And what I found is, in order to get paint to stick to this, we need to scrub the whole thing with mineral spirits or degreaser, because it seems it's got some residual material in that wasn't removed by the needle gun, which makes sense. I did get the base started. I got that cleaned up, and I got an initial coat of paint on it. Had no problems with adhesion. That all worked fine. And as you see, we're skim coating. This is important, particularly on these radii, because they're not flat. You can sort of see here, there are like lines in the castings. And coating that with filler, sanding that over, removes those, makes a big difference. And in these transitions here, we also like to take our finger and just sort of rub it through, and it eliminates some of the casting texture, cleans up quite a bit. But that skim coat really makes a big difference. By the time you sand it, you can start to see, even here you can see the ridges of where the casting has been ground and cleaned up once it was removed. But these castings are not perfect by any means, and they do take a little work. But we're putting in the work. So we're going to make this thing not show worthy, but cleaned up and nice looking. So we'll keep working on these, maybe get some 2K primer on there next. Once we sand them down, start doing as we're doing over here, and just filling in all these little spots here and there with spot putty. And then again, the sanding primer will smooth it out, and that will be good enough, because we're not going for perfect here. Well, we got these parts painted. Overall, they look good. Of course, we're not shooting for perfection here, but they're smooth, and I think look about the 80% or so out of 100 that we're hoping for. One thing I need to do is the last sand, I need to use a hard grit sandpaper. And a few slight scratches once the paint all shrinks and dries. So we'll fix that. But otherwise, we're going to start with this, or get back to this rear support. Work on this thing next. Fun, fun. We have the motor support here up on the bench. That's a hefty piece of metal right there. And I might show you what this looks like in its rough form. You'll see here that there's quite a bit of grinding that goes on with the casting, so you end up with a very kind of rough finish, and it's impregnated with some sort of grease or oil. And what I have to do is take some mineral spirits. You can see where I was doing that, and wire brush over there and just scrub and get an enormous amount of black gunk out of it. But at least you can get paint to stick. You can see here all the various grinding marks. When we skim coat this with filler, that allows us to I guess rehabilitate that edge. Perhaps even would make sense to consider additional grinding touch up with a flat disc to kind of smooth out some of those transitions. But yeah, it takes filler, and that's why this piece is it's odd to think about why they made this piece the shape it is. It's doesn't have to be rounded. It doesn't have to have these features. It could just be square. But back then, I guess they were making the casting, so might as well make it look nice. But it does have a certain style to it. Perhaps that's related to the era in which the machine was built. So we're going to get on this, start cleaning this up, and step one is put on, clean it, then put on epoxy primer, and then we put on filler, sand that, and we put on 2K high build primer, and we sand it nice and smooth, and then we paint it. So, not a fun job today. The idea here is casting imperfections have to be removed, and easiest way to do that I've found is just to go ahead and bite the bullet and get out the filler, trowel it on, and then I'm going to let this dry overnight just so it's nice and cured for sanding. And tomorrow we'll sand this basically flat back down to metal, and then we'll start working. Well, make a few fixes. I'm sure there'll be some items we need to address, but once we do that, we'll then use the 2K, the high build primer, and work out all the remaining imperfections using spot putty and high build primer. So here we have it with first coat of high build primer. It's looking pretty good. I've got some spots here. I went over it with a flashlight and identified some imperfections, voids, and so on, and went ahead and filled that with spot putty. You can see there are a handful of issues, but these transitions, that radius looks good, and you can see some of the grinding features there that will smooth out with this pretty thick coat of high build primer. You can see just the lines of where the edge of the grind stopped, so we'll have to smooth that out and make sure that we eliminate that. May require an additional coat of the high build primer. We'll sand this and probably with 220, and if it looks good, we'll go over it with 320 and call it good. So a bit more sanding. Well, we're back at this motor support. So let me see, we have it painted. Turned out pretty good. I think it looks just fine. There was one imperfection, an inclusion, if you will, down here. Just a slight imperfection. Otherwise, contours look good, finish is good. This is definitely an 8 out of 10. It might be more than that. Really no struggles with this. Looks good. Next thing is the very top of the press. Here we have the cover. And I just primed this in epoxy. Have to glaze it a little bit with filler and straighten up a few issues with it. It looks better than I anticipated based on the shape of the casting. So that's the next step, and then we'll start scrubbing the drill press, getting it ready for primer. So it's about time for a status update. Gotten a lot of work done on this thing. A lot of work. Got it all cleaned up, wiped down, taped off. A little bit of repair work done. Cleaning out the base on this was, well, not a lot of fun. We got it cleaned up. I think it's going to hold some paint. Still have to make up my mind about what color to make the bottom. I'm half tempted to make it red, as they do sometimes on these old machines. You can see we had to get creative with some of the tape work just to maintain this position. Now quite a bit of work to spray this puppy. So we'll do some epoxy primer, then we'll look to do the body work, and then some 2K primer, just like we did on the other stuff. But we'll do it as she sits here. So far, so good. All right, we're back. This time we've slathered this thing. Well, I guess we've primed it and slathered it with a nice thick layer of filler. I think the interior portion of this we're going to paint with the that reddish brown color that we used in the lathe bed. There's a lot of features on this drill. This is not flat. A lot to sand. It's going to be too much sanding, but I'm going to get after it. Here we are back again after the first round of glazing with body filler. I still have yet to straighten this out. That's my last fix, but in this video, sorry about the sound of the fan, but it's 94 degrees here and I'm not turning it off. You can see what we're trying to do here is we're trying to get as thin a layer of filler on there as we can to keep it from being brittle or subject to chipping if anything hits it. You'll see the sort of coverage we get. A couple places like here, we've flattened out a section that was a little off in the casting, but mostly in this first cut, we're just trying to fill in the low spots. And there are things such as this that could be addressed with filler to make that look a little bit more perfect. I'm not really worried about that. The purpose of this restoration is not to make this a showpiece for a museum. It's just to bring it back to just about what it would have been coming out of the factory and have paint on it that will allow us to simply wipe it off and clean it. You can see the level of filler. And this represents a significant amount of work. I'm hopeful that we put some 2K primer on this. It'll fill in and look pretty good. I think we're still going to have some areas to dig in and improve, but I'll get to work on this last piece of filler and then start spraying. Next day, it's much cooler in the shop today. It's only 95. Still haven't gotten the bottom primed. That'll be the next step. I do have the rest sanded, touched up, some spot putty. Turned out better than I had anticipated, to be honest. I thought there would be much more to fix. It's been sanded down with 220 grit. So I just need to make these final improvements. The radiuses up here where they've been smoothed all turned out very nice. It's remarkable how nice. Take a step up here. So all these turned out clean. I know why would I care what it looks like on the top of the machine, but you're going to do it. So with this one, we'll put one more coat of the 2K primer on it. We'll sand it probably with 320 tomorrow. You can see these transitions turned out very nice. Again, nicer than I thought, and we did fairly good job on keeping surfaces flat from what I can tell. There's a little bit of work to do, but next is of course sand off the spot putty and then respray. So we have the second coat of 2K primer on this guy and went and took a light, basically a trouble light, and marked, see here, all of the various sundry imperfections. Take one last pass, spot putty, and final sand this coat, and we'll be ready for paint. Looks pretty good. Again, we're shooting for 8 out of 10 here, and I think we've achieved that. So, get to sanding. Well, we're back at the Cincinnati Bickford Super Service drill. You see we got a coat of paint on it and have assembled most of it. Did clean the table here a bit, got that sorted out, and you can see in the bottom what the plan is for the sump. I call it the sump area. That's going to be that color. It's going to go up the sides, and then we got to tape off the top edge there, but you can see we have controls back in, we have the motor back on, installed. You can see that I changed a little bit of the hardware. I put in some stainless bolts there. Can I keep the thing clean? We still have a tag up there I don't know what I'm going to do with, but you can see what remains is the electric. Now we have the electrical box here. I've rewired it, so I think it seemed pretty straightforward. From 480 to 460 to 220, 208 in this case. And we've got our leads numbered so that we know which ones to connect to. And also we have changed the taps according to the diagram up here that shows you how to do that. So it's pretty straightforward. I think we'll be just fine. There's a handful of little things I need to do. For example, need to paint this little edge here where this piece doesn't match this piece perfectly. Need to touch up some bolts. That's the trouble with assembling it after you paint it, is the paint doesn't want to stay on the bolts. But everything works, or appears to. Got this is an easy 8 out of 10. Nice Jacob's chuck. Everything looking okay. Again, some touch-up work on, for example, the hand wheel here. Got a couple spots I want to touch up. But overall, not looking bad. It really does make a difference when you go to the trouble to fill in these radii, whatever you want to call them. It does smooth out the machine, makes it much cleaner looking. You can see we have our placards, whatever you want to call these, on so that we can see what speed we're going. With the pointers, I had thought about maybe making the very point red. Don't know. But as you can see, got some of the original flaking left on the ways there. I just went and painted this black. I don't know why not. Sounds like we might get a thunderstorm. It's been 100 degrees here all day. So definitely making progress. Just have to get that electric box cleaned up. Get some gunk and grime off of it. And get it painted. I'm going to paint that the same color as the drill press. In retrospect, I think I might have painted that fan this red color that we have down here. I may do some touch-up work here and there, and I have to paint this area inside here. But looking fine, I would say. I would say looking quite good. Significantly better than it was. We'll say that, and it's only been 3 or 4 weeks. 4 weeks of work. A lot of work. Here we are, back at the Cincinnati Bickford Super Service single spindle drill. Got a nice coat of paint on it and finished the bottom sump arrangement here. Looks just fine, I think. Everything's really coming together. Did some touch-up work, painted this top ledge here and the back here, the gap there, got some paint in that to make it a little neater. Next is we have to do electric. I've rewired, as I mentioned before, both the motor taps as well as the taps on the transformer in the box here. So, got to start working on this guy. Get him sanded down, primered, taped, and eventually painted. I need to pick up some electric cord for that as well. I'm going to plug that in over behind the press brake. So we're getting close. We're down the short roads, as they say here, southern part of the country. Got you back here at the Cincinnati Bickford Super Service. This project is complete. We got the wiring done, which was interesting because the control voltage here was dropped down from 460 to 120 for the on-off contactors. And we didn't need that because this service shop is 208, so it's 120 three-phase. So we could just tapped into one leg for the control voltage, and everything works as it should. Looking fine. That there's a looker. Turn the power on. Forward. Reverse. Everything works as it should. One thing I did was run diesel fuel through the top gearbox here to dissolve any gunk that remained from many years of service, and it came out pretty dark. So got that drained out and put some oil in there, and now the downfeed works fine too. Depends on which. About that. Gotta have it in gear. You can see the downfeed works fine. Got the base painted. This project's complete. Just need to find a good vise to sit on the pedestal there, but need to clean up the base a little bit. But And I need to clean this shop up. What a mess. Anyhow, project complete. Well, I still need to put on the badge and change that has a triangular badge as well. I'm having that made at a sign shop. But otherwise, project is complete.